body of the church. Nobody know what incorporated lay body does? I'm going to talk about it. Just straighten that out. Nobody? Who owns this building? Contractual, the title. Who owns this building? Who in church house? Church house by itself, don't own nothing. No? 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 It is the incorporated lay body of the church. So every title in the Anglican real estate is owned by this incorporated lay body. I will talk a little bit more about it. Then coming out of synod is the diocesan council. What the diocesan council does, it takes all of the decisions and processes and so on agreed to in synod and enacts them. So any resolutions passed, any canons to be changed, whatever, goes to the diocesan council and they work on it. The diocesan, sorry?
I said that is in theory.
Work in theory.
Because they have to pass another resolution at one synod to set up this body to follow up a resolution. Because very often they were passed up
Not a structure, but a subcommittee that reports to the diocesan council. There's a canons committee. One of the things, well, I don't know where it comes from, but one of the things that is circulating before every synod is a list of the various subcommittees of the diocese. And, in each of those you have both clerical and lay representatives. And each serve for a particular portion of the time. And when that time is up, they look for nominees and they're voted on. Names of the your celebrants. So right now, I sit on this diocesan church board. As far as I am concerned, I don't reject it. My time is done. So I am to be removed and replaced. That would take place. Canons committee for those items that require a change in the canons goes to the canons committee. Now we'll go to question or canons committee to speak to us. A lot of the canons. Reports to the diocesan council and deals with all kinds of financial matters. Okay. So there is talk and CHS of putting up monitors, maybe television screens, so that we can use them in our service. Somebody says, but so yeah, what about television screens? Anything that goes into or onto the church building, especially in the sanctuary, that alters the shape of the sanctuary, has to be passed through the name of the faculty, as the pastoral faculty. So for us to apply for the mandate, we have to have the church going on. But I didn't go block anybody's view that it is useful for the service, that finances to put it up. That faculty is an application. That faculty goes to the deanery council. It is approved by the deanery council. It goes to the regional council. It is approved by the regional council. It goes to the deanery council. It's like once it's at the deanery council, they send it across to the financial board. You gotta let me tell you how this thing goes. See, if you say you want to add up, for example, structure to your church building, church hall, whatever. You submit a bill or an estimate rather. The estimate is X dollars. You can prove how you will raise that finance. It's not very important. But better than that, you see it when the financial board look at the church and realize that the church owed the taxes money. Provided that you owe them money and you're not doing anything now. Our situation would be very different. Because firstly, we are up to date thanks to our hard-working treasurer. We are up to date on our mission share on a monthly basis. So we have not incurred any additional losses, any additional interest or losses is not the word. Debits. Liabilities. Since for the last year. And also, we are running on a program which was suggested by the financial people to pay off the debt we are incurred. For those of you who don't know, the debt was somewhere to reach $7 million.
Okay, in terms of going to church, and you remember the one somebody is sponsoring it and you're getting full aid. Is that
It actually is the best way to do it. Because when you apply for the faculty, the wording could be something like, through the generosity of members, the following has been donated and received. So you have to think, you have to do something. So we are applying for permission. But of course, there would be additional costs in terms of wiring. But that is the best way to do it. Have the item in hand and tell them, so somebody here, I have to do something with it. That's the way that works. Right? Okay. So that's how those boards work. The regional councils report to the diocesan council. So the regional bishops and archbishops sit on the diocesan council. And whatever happens coming up through the deaneries and so on is reported. So that is how the basic structure. So underneath, what is important for today's lecture about this diagram is what? Anybody want to guess? Is anybody following me? I would have.
Response to the bishop house. You're taking to respond to the bishop house.
What would that responsibility? By the
chief.
That's the chief pastor. He is the chairman.
Oh yes, so yeah.
So he is a big boy, and I have seen. I don't know where the cameras are. Your resolution has been passed by Satan. Bishop Gregory featured it. So, over never got anywhere. And he declared from there early in the year, he's not going to. So that's the structure of the diocese. Let me talk about each thing separate. The synod is the highest policy-making body of the church and has the power to decree such canons from an ecclesiastical point of view, church, as needs of the diocese shall from time to time. So, at the synod, anybody here has ever been a synod rep or is currently a synod rep? So you know what synod, apart from one of the main features of synod is to approve the budget. Another one is to hear about resolutions and so on. But the business of the diocese is also discussed. So what is happening in this organization, that organization, and so on and so on. Also, what the bishop visions as a way forward. So, for example, this whole thing of visioning that we did a few years ago, which we need to do again, came up and said, he introduced it with persons coming and talking to us about value, visioning, and having a 5-year plan and all this kind of thing. So it trickled over. The synod consists of church workers, ordained and lay, holding the mission. Yeah, ordained and lay, holding the bishop's license, meaning I lay that they supplement for ministries and ministers. And also representatives of the laity and church organizations. So it's not just ordained and synod. The bishop usually invites a set of people. Apart from like the chancellor and the register for members of the diocese board, he would invite, for example, the chairman of the financial, and he would people like with that name, others union ASA, so on and so on. But outside of the structure of the church, he would also invite people like UDC pastor, president, Big Lawrence, Vincent Chin, people like Eleanor Henry, Dr. Eleanor Henry, and others. So it would be a full festival. But those people would not have a vote. They would not have a vote. And that's what they incorporated lay body of the church. Holds the property, funds on behalf of the church, exercising all rights and duties of corporation. Yes?
Incorporated into the law.
What's that? Incorporated lay body, yes. Because it can sue and it can be sued. So let us say, here's an example. There are a number of churches that have properties or into the country house. Somebody squat and keep it property. And they want to recover the property. And they try whatever means to get it and don't get it. They incorporated lay body of the church takes the individuals to court. So it can sue and be sued. But it does not act as an administrative body. Nothing administrative. committee and those other committees were formed out of this, but are not this subcommittee. Oh. Good question, because it's only like about 3 or 4 persons. A bishop of your school. I believe diocese secretary, and then 2 others appointed. More than likely, with Lawrence. In the church, yes. Oh yeah. In fact, he heads a practical government. Alright, so moving on. The Diocesan Council is a standing committee of the Synod. It considers and reviews plans, policies, programs, and reports on the general progress of the diocese. So this is like the main working body of the diocese. You know, it advises and assists the diocesan bishop in all matters concerning the administration of the diocese, which are not specifically committed to the management of financial board, so non-financial matters. That's an actual large board. All bishops, suffragan and diocesan, all archdeacons, diocesan secretary. And some additional non-clerical appointees as well. It's chaired by the diocesan bishop. They don't understand structure. He's in charge of synod, but he's also in charge of working body in the council. So it's a powerful. The diocesan board recommends matters to the our financial nature, to the diocesan financial board. And most of the people I just called who sit on the diocesan council, sit on the diocesan financial board. The appointees, and those that are voting, are the ones that will do it. It has no authority to alter or depart from the provisions of any canon of the church, or from any resolution or instruction. It can do nothing to make change. It can only institute changes that have been passed. Okay? Alright. So when they got passed, so what? And still is to an extent, although the diocese, the province, has accepted it, and I believe there are female bishops in the province who vote them. But if you look at our structure, because we've been male dominated for so long, the majority of the senior people who are likely to ascend to bishopric are men. So I hand over here. to fix that. So they are proposals to do that. What we're talking about, for those of you who know Crossroads, from the entrance to Natal on Old Hope Road, runs straight across as a crow flies to St. Louis Press Road, and then goes south to the borders of the road belongs to the diocese. So there is a lot of plans for that. So the first thing is, St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg was a set of small apartments that were developed right by St. Petersburg. So they now have a huge building, the new Petersburg. It's now been made available for sale and for rent. They're renting those suburbs. Also, you're about to hear about the breaking of ground for the construction of a new tax office in Brussels. And it comes from land that they have either sold them or used. So that's what you have. That is a plan to decrease the reliance of the diocese on missionary. So you had your money where you drop it in the collection, but less of it, and then started doing it. You make kudos to the financial board. Less of the money that is given in connection now goes to the diocese. So they reduced it from about 60%. Their budget relies on mission share. They reduce the amount it relies on from 60% of overall. And if you when they're not here, they basically get our mission share steady, the same. We are just over the last 2 years. So they're not required. We are a church. So the first thing I think that they've done is to approach these people, have the land subdivided, and for them to purchase these other properties. I don't know what the next move will be for the next. Alright? It's all back to the church. Any other questions? I'm going to say right. Let's look at further scope. This is just for our own edification. We're looking at the Kingston region. Remember 3 regions. This one is Kingston. Suffragan Bishop, Gardner, Charles Deacon, Patrick Cunningham. Gina is involved, St. Catherine, Portmore, Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Portland, and St. Easily the largest number of congregations, both in terms of numbers and so, when there was no bishop, Archbishop Patrick did not believe in the 7 spiritually comes from Scripture. And the Anglican tradition believes that the bishops are seen as successors to the apostles, original apostles. If you remember correctly, those of you who know Acts of the Apostles, who was the first bishop of Jerusalem? Say over there, who was the first bishop of Jerusalem?
Is it James?
James. Yeah. And who was James? Brother of Jesus. Some say the half brother of Jesus. So from the very early, and he was referred to as a bishop. He was referred to as overseer. But the translation of the term into English, the Jewish term or Greek term, can also mean bishop. Okay? So from very early, the church had leaders, bishops. And so it continued until the church grew so large that at one stage they had 3 bishops. One in Constantinople, one in Italy, in Rome, and one in Alexandria. This is now when there was just one church. Then you know about the surgeons of the Moors. The Moors were Islamists, Arabs, and they fought the Christians with a big battle. The major part of the battle was over Jerusalem. So as a result of that, right now, Jerusalem is Islamic, Jewish, and Christian. You heard about the Crusades? That was where a lot of the Christian soldiers fought the Arabs for property. And at the end of the day, the only see that remained, a Christian see, was Rome. Constantinople fell to and the one in Alexandria, which is in North Africa, fell to somebody. There was a huge movement of Islam taking over a lot of what was then the known world. As a result of that, for example, you hear about the Serbs and the Bosnia. Yeah. That came out of the same fight because the fight reached way into Europe and so on. The point I want to make is that the church has, for a long time, from its inception, had bishops. And bishops were in charge of the churches. So the authority of our bishop comes from that scripture, that scriptural origin. Also, the authority of the bishop is taken from the teaching and preaching of the interpretation of the scripture. So he is regarded as the source of any controversy, any controversial The same way in which, oh, by the way, when I talked about the Bishop of Constantinople, Alexandria, and Rome, I was actually talking about them as popes, or three popes. So these are the guys you go to when you have controversial issues and questions and so on. So his authority comes from the fact that he is regarded as that one-stop shop. Finally, he is responsible for maintaining discipline in the diocese. So there have been lay persons as well as ordained persons who have fell into disrepute. He is a person who is responsible to discipline. In some cases, because the license that we hold, again, is signed by him, and he has the power to revoke those licenses. So if I fall in disrepute, he can revoke my license. So, although it didn't happen with the Anglican Church, there was a situation in the another church where the pastor was found to have been having sexual relations with two sisters, one of them 12, one of them, and that the mother was supplying the children to the priest. So not only was the mother basically a member of the church, but I would imagine had that happened in our church, not only would the mother have been basically or the priest would have been charged from taxes. We have, however, had situations where priests have gotten a little too involved with finances of their churches. To the point where fingers are pointed at them for illicit behavior. In a situation like that, in fact, in our situation, there is a requirement of positive. Yeah, there will, who said, this one said that one said. I remember when I was another place, there was a person who was very involved in the church activities, a person, and she was regarded to have been a lesbian. And so was the rule. And she was very involved with a young girl who was also black. And I remember the church board, priest board, there was no priest, there was a supplementary priest at the time, wanted to sanction her in a number of different ways. And after all, they must say, what proof do you have? But this one said that happened. I said, well, call that one and make them tell you to your face. And what I must tell you is not that they hear, but that they saw. But the end of the story is that nobody saw. And it was all rumors. That lady has done to represent the church in some mighty ways. So just like your life, never. So the bishop, in maintaining discipline, has to be very careful that he doesn't overstep and that he has to be thorough in his dealing with others. So sometimes you might hear that this one has fallen into this way. So why the bishop don't do nothing? Well, 6 months now and when I hear nothing, he can't forgive us. Okay? So he maintains the discipline. and bishops have no authority in themselves. So somebody came up when Bishop Leon was being nominated and asked, so what is his record in doing these kinds of changes and revolutionary this and that? He couldn't remember. Unless the bishop, the diocese, instructed to do. So you don't have the record to follow. Having now become the diocese, well, the record that you follow is probably when he was archdeacon and priest. Now that he is bishop, you will have an opportunity to start this. He said, on the diocese. Please pray for him. The Bible of these. They come out with status of their church. He has to die. That's the same. So the welcome. Maybe they want to be. We are seeing that.
I think she had a way.
Any other? So I think it was worth the while. Any other questions or thoughts or muses? Don't Jackie to tell anything. Bus driver to come back. Well, it's good about us now, so we should be here.